NASCAR took to the road course at Indianapolis for the last time today, potentially, and we have a brand new winner who has locked themselves into the playoffs, moving that cut line down a little bit. Who's in, who's out, who realistically is locked in on points, and who is in a definite must-win scenario with only 2 races remaining until the playoffs start. We're going to break it all down today on Shifting Gears. I'm Alan Bailey, and before Denny Hamlin tries to block everyone on social media, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you come on back for the next video, and make sure that you log on to AmericanRacingNetwork.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Y'all, it was a good race today. I don't care what anybody tells me. That was a good race. No, it was not a wreckfest. No, it wasn't caution after caution after caution. No, we did not see stage breaks with the cautions mandatory coming. And that definitely threw, I think, some of the field for a loop, not knowing when we were going to get that caution. And we didn't see that caution. We got it early in the race, and that was it. It just kind of never happened after that. But it was ultimately Michael McDowell and Front Row Motorsports. Congratulations to them. Congratulations to Michael McDowell. This is a guy who went from ARCA straight up into the Cup Series and sucked. Like, straight up. He was not ready. I think he'll admit that. He sucked. He was just bad when he started at Michael Waltrip Racing. Part of that was Michael Waltrip, but a bigger part of that was, he just wasn't there. Plain and simple. So, looking at it, Michael McDowell, you gotta hand it to this guy, because he didn't just go out there and play the pit strat and get lucky at the end. He actually went out there and led a bunch of laps. You look at the amount of laps he led today, it actually combines not only for the most that Front Row Motorsports has led in a single race, but it actually takes the top 2 races that they led the most laps in, and it combined that into what they got today. So they essentially led double the laps that they ever have in a Cup race in a single race. Big weekend for them. Big weekend for Ford. But for Michael McDowell, this week, they announced that he and Todd Gilliland both back in Front Row Motorsports Fords for the 2024 season. So that was kind of a huge lingering thing. Talking to him, or seeing his comments, I should say, in victory lane on the front stretch afterwards, you could kind of tell his future was in doubt. Like, he might have thought this could be my last year in the Cup Series. And I don't necessarily know if anybody's going to take a chance on Michael McDowell once he's out of that 34 car, whenever that is now. That is a team that signs their drivers year to year, and typically they don't have those conversations with their drivers or make those decisions until the offseason. So Michael McDowell goes into this offseason knowing that he's locked in for 2024. He is in the best position he has been in for a playoff run ever. And I'm counting when he won the 500 too. He's made it on points as well, but he's locked himself in with 2 races to go until the playoffs. Right now he is 12th, seeded 12th, I should say, in the postseason when it starts. And he's a guy who is clearly firing on all cylinders. They've been running top 10. They've been running just inside the top 15, which is pretty respectable for them, considering how little funding they have. And they are really starting to show up. Honestly, I'm impressed. I do think that he's running better than some of the guys who are currently locked in at the moment. Clearly, he beat everybody out today, so there's no question about that today, but you got to hand it to this guy. He wins the Daytona 500 a couple of years ago. That's a big marquee moment for him. That's validating him as a Cup driver. That is the biggest race in our sport. And even though this isn't the oval, he still won on the oval today. That is a massive win. You win at Indianapolis in anything. I don't care if it's golf carts. That's like career defining right there. And the fact that this guy now has a win at Daytona and Indianapolis is just simply amazing. Congratulations to him. And honestly, very heartfelt that his family was there, that his kids were in victory lane, that his kids got to see this. I think that this win means more than the 500, because people were saying the 500's a fluke, it doesn't count, he's not good enough, all these different things. But then at the end of the day, you still have that Daytona 500 trophy in your trophy case. And today, now he has a trophy from Indianapolis in his trophy case. And on top of that, it happened on a Sunday afternoon. in August. Your family's there. You get to enjoy it. You get to take the kissing the brickyard photos with your family. There's video of him and his kids in Victory Lane that are going to live on. It's going to live on forever for the rest of his life, the rest of his kids' life. It's a massive, massive, massive win for Front Row Motorsports, for Ford, for Michael McDowell. And let's talk about Ford for a second. We go back a couple weeks ago. We were saying, Ford's not looking that great. And then Buescher goes out there with RFK and wins back-to-back. They're still firing on all cylinders. They're 8th in the postseason grid right now, in the playoff grid right now. McDowell goes out there and kind of shows, hey, Ford's starting to pick up the pace here a little bit. I definitely think they are, because, yes, Joey Logano is in. Yes, Ryan Blaney is in, but Penske really hasn't shown up this year. They have those 2 victories, yes, but honestly, that was earlier in the season, with Blaney's coming at the 600 not too long ago, but that honestly feels like it was a full season ago, and they haven't really shown up since. They're clearly missing something, and it's just starting to become an issue. You do not want to start going downhill around this time of the year, and that's kind of what we're seeing Penske do. They're not showing up. They're not bringing good quality pieces to the racetrack, and that should be alarming to these drivers, or to the Penske drivers and Penske fans. Maybe it is time to get into the bathtub, as the DBC boys like to put it. But at this point, Buescher is still showing up with Ford. RFK, hands down, is the best Ford team in the garage area right now. Stewart-Haas, oh boy, Kevin Harvick qualified dead last. Seriously, like, he was the slowest on the racetrack in qualifying, hands down. What the hell? Not the showing Harvick wanted to see today. Harvick qualifies 38th, finishes 23rd. Not the final race at Indianapolis that Harvick clearly wanted. But looking at the finishing order, McDowell gets the victory. Chase Elliott. Oh, let's talk about Chase Elliott for a second. Honestly, I was impressed with him. I did not expect this run out of him, because he has been running so damn poorly in the Cup Series for the last few weeks, all season, ever since the playoffs started a year ago. He's been running off, and I think even Chase Elliott fans will agree with that. No, I've gone on record saying I do not think he deserves to be in the playoffs this season. I don't. He missed way too many races with his injury. That was 100% on him, because I'm sorry, yes, you should have a life, but no, don't go freaking snowboarding the day before a Cup race, the day before qualifying. That's really freaking stupid. Go snowboarding during the off season. Have that fun during the off season. When you're racing this car for 38 weekends a year, during those 38 weekends, do not do extreme sports. Do not go out and put yourself in that risk. And I'm pretty sure Rick Hendrick hammered that into his skull. But even going out and running late model races right now, he's not really showing up. He's missing a little something, and I know he's still recovering. I know he's still playing a little hurt, which is what we found out from Harvick over the weekend. He's been racing with some broken ribs as well, by the way, from earlier this season. But Elliott just hasn't shown up this season. He's been missing something since the regular season last year, and I do not expect him to make the playoffs. He could pull a win out of his ass and win at the Glen next weekend, but I don't think so. I think that that's putting way too much pressure on him. But let's be honest. Is he going to compete? Is he going to show up in the playoffs? They're not magically going to go out there and start qualifying top 5 and running top 5 every single week and competing for wins. They're missing something. Hendrick as a whole is missing something. But you look at the finishing order. McDowell gets the victory. Chase Elliott comes home a close second. I don't think he was going to catch McDowell, even if he had another 5 laps and McDowell had older tires. There was no way. McDowell even said he was holding back and he was saving a little something because he was counting on a late race caution. I was too. It never came. Suarez. Honestly, this is the Daniel Suarez that needs to be peaking at this time. He started on the pole, brought a hell of a piece out here, and honestly, I was counting him out. I didn't think he was... I still don't know if he's going to make the postseason, honestly. He's, at the moment, 28 points out. 17th in the standings right now, but he's got to hopscotch Bubba Wallace. He's got to try to hopscotch Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick. And oh, by the way, if we go into the next 2 weeks and we see another winner, Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski could legitimately be fighting for that final playoff spot. Will we see another 2 winners in the next 2 weeks? I don't necessarily think so. It's possible. I didn't think we were going to see a new winner this late in the season, but Michael McDowell proved us wrong. The big question is can Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez, Ty Gibbs, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, can any of those drivers get a win and lock themselves into the postseason? Harvick, no. I don't think there's a chance in hell. Maybe at Daytona, but I don't think he's going to the Glen and showing up. Keselowski maybe at the Glen, maybe. Bubba, not a road course racer. He admits that, but he's been looking pretty stout here and there. But I do think that he does have a good super speedway package underneath him, and I do think he'll have a shot at a victory at Daytona. Suarez has a shot to win next week at the Glen. As far as Daytona, I don't know. Same with Gibbs. Gibbs has a shot to win at the Glen next week. Same with Chase Elliott. But Bowman, I don't think so. So there is a potential that that playoff marker could move. Right now, Harvick, Keselowski, and Bubba Wallace are all in the postseason as they stand right now with 2 races to go. Harvick, Keselowski are not locked in on points. Not because they don't have that many points. They do. They are Harvick's plus 145, Keselowski's plus 143. But because both of them are so close in the points, and because there is that potential of another winner, no one's locked in on points. Harvick and Keselowski realistically are going to Daytona racing to try to make the postseason, period. I do think that those two are obviously plus 120 something points up on the next person, Bubba 16th. But honestly, because you have that unknown factor of getting a new winner sometime in the next 2 weeks, they're not locked in. Now, if we do not see a new winner, if we see a repeat winner, so if Truex, Hamlin, Byron, Bell, Larson, Chastain, Blaney, Buescher, Kyle Busch, Rennick, Logano, McDowell, Stenhouse, one of those 13 drivers gets the victory next weekend at the Glen, then Harvick and Keselowski potentially are good. One of them could be, depending on where they come out on that end. But honestly, one of them could hopscotch the other, and then going into Daytona with 3 spots open, who knows? It's a giant unknown factor if we see a new winner sometime in the next 2 weeks. That's the big question mark at this point. But looking at the rest of the finishing order, Alex Bowman coming home 5th. He needed that, man. He's been having an offseason ever since he was injured and came back. He hasn't really been 100%. I still think he's playing hurt. Chase Briscoe, hometown boy, he needed a good victory. Highest finishing Stewart-Haas Ford in 6th after starting 13th. Good run for them. Martin Truex Jr. coming home 7th. Good run for them. Larson, who had the big announcement today that, I'm running the Indy 500. Here's the cars. They kind of match. I actually like the gold. It looks very Napa-esque. I think that Napa and Hendrick Motorsports needs to take some design cues from this gold and blue palette and use it on Elliott's car next season, because I hate the white on Elliott's car, frankly, but I do like the fact that Larson's running the double, that he has kind of sort of matching paint schemes. It's really cool. You have Christopher Bell, who came home 9th today. SVG, man, coming home 10th. You got to hand it to this guy. 2 cup races. You got a victory and a 10th. Really good. He's not one to give himself a grade, but I got to give him an A, man, because it's extremely impressive to go out there and race these guys and come home with a top 10. He was as high as, I think, 7th at one point. Not due to green flag pit stops, but just his own running order. So honestly, good for him, man. That's really, really cool. A lot of speculation on SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen. Where is he going to end up next season? Is he going to be in the Cup Series? I think if it wasn't for the charter system, he would have already announced that he's full-time in the Cup Series next year. I truly believe that, but because the charter system is kind of up in the air with what's happening after the 2024 season, I don't see Trackhouse going out and spending $20+ million to get a new charter, a third charter for Trackhouse, for SVG to compete in what could be the 91, what could be the 97, the 98, whatever number they end up going with. I do think they want to keep the 91 separate as a Project 91 to bring more superstars in. But the whole intention with Trackhouse, with Justin Marks, with Pitbull, starting Project 91 was to bring in superstar talent from other forms of racing. And they've done that. They did that with Kimi Räikkönen. They did that with SVG. They've done that. That car has brought in superstar talent. And because of it, SVG now has committed. He has said, I want to be here. I want to have fun here. He had a decent run going in the Truck Series for his first oval start and came on the radio and was legitimately having fun. He was on the Dale Earnhardt Jr. download this week talking about his frustrations with the current series he's in, with how changes similar to what NASCAR went through with the cars kind of put them in a box and he's not having fun over there. But he came over here, ran the Cup race, and had a ball because the car was so much fun to drive, because the competition is so stout. He likes that challenge. He talked to Marcus Ambrose. He wants to be in the Cup Series, and I do think he's going to end up in the Cup Series, at least on a partial schedule in 2024. I do see him running, I don't know necessarily a full-time truck schedule, but probably a full-time truck schedule, honestly, after how he ran at Indy over the weekend. I do think it's probably what's best for his oval progression. He can run the trucks in a series that legitimately is going to test his patience. I would like to see him race kind of a mixture of truck and Xfinity next year with as many Cup races as they can find sponsors for, but we're going to have to wait and see. They're still working things out. They're still trying to find the sponsor money. They're still trying to figure out if they can lease a charter. I'm hearing that they're talking to Rick Ware, potentially renting the number 15's charter to compete at Trackhouse. Whether that will happen or not, we'll have to wait and see. It's all about monies and dollars and cents and contracts at this point, which is all ongoing negotiations at this point. But amazing top 10 results right there. Amazing race out here today at Indianapolis. I think it's absolutely great what we did, taking NASCAR to the road course. I think it was a much needed break, but honestly, looking at the grandstands, they were still very thin. And the Indy 500 was just a few months ago. It sells out. There's, 200,000 plus that show up to that race, pushing 300,000, and yet we can't get half of that to show up for a NASCAR race. I don't necessarily think it's a problem with the racing product. I just think that local interest isn't there, because you look at Indianapolis, yes, it is the racing capital. People love racing out there, but they don't show up to races because the exact same drivers that were in the Indianapolis 500 a few months ago, I should say, didn't show up for that race yesterday. Didn't show up for the Xfinity race. It's just, it's not going to happen. I don't think we're ever going to see the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in any configuration sell out for a NASCAR race ever again. And I know that's a controversial statement right there. I know you guys are going to blast me in the comments, and please do comment down below. Do you think Indianapolis Motor Speedway will ever sell out? That's borderline pushing 300,000 people will show up for a NASCAR race. No. If you keep this race in the middle of the summer, whether it's the road course, whether it's the oval, whether or not you do a combination of do the road course one lap, do the oval the other lap, I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't, because that's asking a lot of people to show up for this race, and half of the people that show up to the Indianapolis 500 are just there because it's the Indianapolis 500 and they want to be at the biggest race in the country. Period. They're not there because they're racing fans. They're there because they want the Instagrammable moments and things like that. And maybe if you move this as the championship race, maybe if it's opening the playoffs, maybe it can see a decent bump in attendance, but I don't see more than 200,000 people ever showing up for a NASCAR Cup race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway ever again. Period. And I hate to say that, but that's just the reality of it. But let's go ahead and really talk about that. If we get 50% of the grandstands full, let's just call it 100,000. I don't know if that's what the seating capacity is at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway right now, but let's just call it 100,000 people show up to a NASCAR race. That's pretty damn good. Like, I'm sorry, but y'all are talking about how North Wilkesboro sold out at like 50,000 people. Well, double that showing up to Indianapolis is still pretty damn good. 100,000 people showed up to the Los Angeles Clash this year, and it wasn't a sellout, but it was pretty damn close. And people were saying, "Oh, tear it up! It's we don't need it no more." Rah! And then 100,000 plus showed up to Auto Club Speedway, and everybody praised it. It was so great, but somehow those two things don't mean the same. But we're going to celebrate North Wilkesboro for selling out not even 50,000. I think it's 42,000 that fit in North Wilkesboro right now. That's a sellout? That's like crowning achievement? I mean, Gateway had similar numbers where it's a little over 50,000, I want to say. I think it's 55,000 off the top of my head. Showed up to that race, sold it out. Great for them, great for that market. But it's not the same as selling out the Daytona 500. It's not the same as selling out the LA Clash or the Auto Club Speedway or selling out the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think you've got to look at the numbers and not just sell out, not sell out. Because if I have 10 seats and I sell out, that's great. But if I have 300,000 seats like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway has and I don't sell that out, is my event more of a success than Indianapolis, even though there was literally 100 times more people in Indianapolis? No, absolutely not. So fans kind of make that disparity and make that they mix that up. And that's just simply not the case. But I do hope to see NASCAR return to the oval. I do think it is what we need to do. It's what NASCAR needs to do in order to get that crown jewel back. And it lost that the last 3 years. But I do think maybe NASCAR needs to do a road course 1 year, oval the next, and flip every other year. That way it kind of adds a little bit more mystique and a little bit more prestige to winning the oval at the Brickyard, meaning that it only comes up every couple of years. So maybe that's the solution. We're still kind of waiting and seeing what NASCAR is going to announce and what their intention is, but we're seeing the test this coming week, tomorrow actually, with going out to the oval with these Cup cars and doing a tire test for Goodyear to get ready for next year's oval race. So that's pretty darn cool. But overall, I want to hear what you have to say. What did you think about the race today? Do you think that legitimately Michael McDowell could be a threat to win this championship? I don't think he's necessarily a threat. I think maybe he's gonna make the round of 12 easily. I really do, because I'm gonna be blunt. I think guys like Ricky Stenhouse probably not gonna make it out of the first round. You could see a couple of bad races from some of these guys, and they could not make it out of the first round. I question if Harvick makes it, if Bubba Wallace, who's in right now, makes it. I question if they'll make it out of the first round, but I do think McDowell could potentially make it to the round of 12. If not, maybe contend for the round of 8. Not necessarily make the round of 8, but at least be in the conversation and just right there be on the outside. But I do think he has top 10 speed, at least right now, especially with going to the Glen next weekend. McDowell could go back-to-back, legitimately go back-to-back. But so could Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott could win at the Glen. Gibbs could win at the Glen. You never know. And I do have one other mini rant that I want to go on here. I put it on social media today because I was so frustrated last night about it. I just wanted to sleep on it. Ty Gibbs should be fined for his burnout celebration. I mean that. I mean that sincerely. Normally, I don't care. Do your burnout as long as it's safe. What he did on Saturday after he won the Xfinity race at the road course at Indianapolis, period, was not safe. He put people's lives and their safety in risk, period. I don't care who you are. If you just won the championship, do not do a burnout or donuts in front of cars trying to get back to pit road on the racetrack. That was incredibly stupid, incredibly reckless, and at the very least, Ty Gibbs needs to apologize, not to me, not to you, but to everyone who was on the racetrack and everyone at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, specifically track workers and anybody who was in shot of him doing those burnouts. He should have waited till he got to the front stretch where no other race cars were to do those burnouts. Instead, he's doing them on the racetrack in front of his competitors. That is extremely arrogant, extremely disrespectful, and self-centered. And yes, you won the race. Congratulations. You deserve to do burnouts. Do them in a safe location. Do not do them in front of the field. That is so stupid, because cars are driving around you doing your donuts. He's doing his donuts on the racetrack in a very narrow part of the track, kicking up dust, kicking up smoke, making it so that these drivers can't see through it and get back to pit road safely. They could have hit each other. Somebody could have come barreling into the smoke and caused a sincere issue. Plus, these guys typically put their window net down. They start loosening their belts. that could have potentially been a deadly situation. Ty Gibbs needs to be fined for that. It's got to be money because he's not running in Xfinity. You can't take away points in the Cup Series because of something he did in Xfinity. So NASCAR should slap him with a $25,000 fine, $50,000 fine for causing an unsafe issue like that on the racetrack, period. That's just my thought. But I want to hear from you. What do you think about Michael McDowell's victory out at Indianapolis today? Do you think he's going to go deep in the playoffs? Do you think that Harvick, Keselowski, Bubba Wallace, Chase Elliott, who's going to get the final 3 spots in the postseason with 2 races to go? And what do you think about Ty Gibbs' burnout? And in all, what do you think about Indianapolis Motor Speedway and NASCAR's future at the Brickyard? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're there, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you come on back for the next video. And make sure that you log on to AmericanRacingNetwork.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Thank you so much for watching. For Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.